Hi, Sid. Thanks for joining us for our first Learn from Leadership interview for our L&D newsletter. If you could just kick off by introducing yourself, so just your name, your role at GitLab, and what your current home location is.
Thanks for having me. My name is Sijbrandij. I'm the CEO and co-founder at GitLab, and I live in San Francisco, California.
What has your career journey looked like to date?
Going back to education, I went to a good high school in the Netherlands. I was good at economics and physics. I did 1 year of applied physics at university and then went into management science, which is like half MBA, half engineering studies. I graduated at Procter & Gamble. I then did an internship after graduating at IBM. Then I worked for a private recreational submarine company for 5 years. Became a consultant creating Ruby on Rails websites. Had another startup and went back to consulting and started GitLab.
Awesome. Thanks. And you've been the CEO here at GitLab since you joined, or since it started?
Since I started the company in 2012, with Dimitri starting the open source project in 2011.
Awesome. What's the biggest career risk you've ever taken?
I think it was the submarines. I had a job offer from IBM on the table, and I asked the investor behind the submarine company to hire me, and he was reluctantly agreeing and asked me for a salary proposal. And I said something extremely reasonable, and he said half of that. I later asked why he said that, and it was because he was still calculating with numbers that were 15 years older. So by that time, like inflation and market changed those numbers. So I started to work at something I couldn't afford to house myself off that. So I moved in back with my parents in the attic to be able to afford to work for the submarine company.
What's the best book you've read this year?
Ooh, this year I have not done a ton of reading, so I find that hard to say. I think best book ever is High Output Management, and I'm now reading Sapiens, which is super fun so far.
What is your preferred learning style? So some examples are visual, you prefer using pictures, images; auditory, you prefer sound and music; kinesthetic, you prefer using your body; and then reading, writing, you prefer using words.
Yeah, reading and writing, but with like a clear hierarchy in the ideas.
And then why do you think learning is important?
Because it's fun, because it will make you better at your current job, and because it will enable you to get another job.
Yeah, awesome. And what's one thing you wish you would have learned sooner in your career?
Many things. Some things that come to mind is like the power of incentives. I think Warren Buffett says that, or maybe his partner says that you keep underestimating that power. I think the importance of setting the right target, choosing the right metric, and the importance of selling. Basically, as a CEO, you're selling team members, you're selling board members, you're selling customers, you're selling investors. Selling is a useful skill, whatever you do, whether you are a CEO or not. In almost every job, selling is a superpower to have.
Who is your role model and why? Or you can have multiple.
Yeah, I think I'm not going to name a person, although probably there's some guesses that can be made based on the companies I will name. No person is perfect. So I think a role model is like you start idolizing a certain person, and there's pros and cons, and everyone has pros and cons. So I'd rather imitate certain behavior that you can admire. And I admire how Amazon as a business have been able to go to adjacent businesses, most famously AWS. That is very, very rare to be able to pull that off, and very amazing to see. And I admire the ability of SpaceX to iterate in hardware. Iteration is something we do at GitLab. It's relatively easy in software. Being able to do that with rockets that you have to produce and produce them really quickly and iterate on the design very quickly is really amazing.
Could you name a person or people who have had a tremendous impact on you as a leader? Might be someone who's been a mentor to you, and then why and how has this person or people impacted your life?
Yeah, I think the coaches I've had at GitLab have been very impactful. There's just, obviously, there's the list of people who shape you is too long to mention in this call, but for the purposes of this call, let's keep it to coaches as GitLab. And I see our first board member, Bruce Armstrong, as kind of the original coach, the coach before I even had a coach. And then John Hamm was my coach for a long time, and now Dan Levin.
What are you doing to ensure that you continue to grow and develop as a leader today?
Yeah, we mentioned the coach. And there's the board performance review, which is really good. It gives me a lot of like concrete things to improve. I read books, sometimes recommended by board members. Godfrey just handed me a book about situational leadership, which situational management, which I'll read. I'm curious. I keep just reading a lot. I keep asking a lot. I kind of use the CEO channel in Slack to ask, like, hey, why is this the way it is? I don't understand. It's kind of fun. That I have a ton of people in there that can advise. And I try to keep talking with entrepreneurs. There's a video of me on Sunday talking with Orderly and doing a mock YC interview.
Is there anything else you want to share about leadership at GitLab?
Yeah, I advise everyone to check out the leadership page in our handbook. I put a lot of time and effort and thinking in the concepts that are on that page. And then I think sometimes people want to go directly to being mentored, but I'd advise people to plan coffee chat with leaders at GitLab, and a mentorship might develop organically from that. So see coffee chats as the way to get a mentor or not, but at least grow and get connected.
Awesome, great advice. And that was the last question. So I just want to say thank you for being our first interviewee on our Learn from Leadership section of our L&D newsletter.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for making this newsletter. Appreciate it.
Thank you.